Hi, it's Andy, and today I'm bringing you an original tag video. Yes, I did a thing and I made an original book tag video based on the soundtrack of Hamilton, the musical. This all came around because I was looking for tags to do and saw Pulling Banana Books, who's Christina Riccio's video of a Hamilton tag that she had done 8 years ago based on a Hamilton tag by someone called Maureen, who isn't on YouTube anymore, and her tag video isn't even available anymore, otherwise I would tag it below. I'll tag Christine's anyway. But yeah, it only had a few questions and it didn't have all the songs and it didn't have my favourite songs, and the prompts weren't my favourite prompts, and so Tori was like, why don't you do your own? Well, really, what she said was you should do a Hamilton-based readathon, and I was like, I'm not doing a readathon, I do not have the brain power to do a readathon. Like, all power to people who can do readathons. I am not nearly there yet. Maybe one day. Today's not that day. But I ended up making an original, technically two, it will be two. So I have taken the soundtrack of Hamilton and I've made a bookish prompt tag video or tag for every single song. Now there are 44 songs in Hamilton. There's no way someone's gonna sit here and do all 44. So this will be broken up into Act 1 and Act 2, as is the musical. And so Act 1 will be the songs from Act 1 of the musical, which is what this video is, and then Act 2 will be my Part 2 video where I'll give you all the ones from Act 2 of the musical. You can feel free, if you would like to do this tag, you can feel free to do Act 1, Act 2, do both in separate videos, together if you so wish, or if you want, you can make it fun, you can choose your favourite songs from the musical and put your own tag together with your favourite songs. I have an issue where I can't do things by like half measures, and so I made prompts for every single song in the musical. And I'm going to go through them with you. Well, I'm going to go through Act 1 with you in this one. Act 2 will be in a different video. And I'm going to give you books. I'm going to do the tag. I'm not just going to go through it, I'm also going to do the tag. And this will be a bit longer than a usual tag because I will give you kind of like my thoughts and explanations on the things because I'm an over-explainer, as you can tell. I did try and do these prompts based on either the content of the song or the vibe of the song or just a general thing to do with this. You'll understand as I go through. I've got the prompts over here on the screen because there's absolutely no way I'm remembering everything. So I will be, checking in with my prompts over here while I do this. And I will be going in order of the show. There may be, if you've not seen Hamilton or listened to the soundtrack, there may be spoilers. I've tried to keep it as vague as possible. So you may, if you've seen the show, you should hopefully get the reference. But if you've not, it hopefully won't spoil it for you. But it has been out and about in the world for so long now that I can't, if you watch this after this warning and get spoiled for it, I can't help you. You have been warned. Okay, I'm going to stop my yabbering, she says, and just start going through the songs. So our introduction song is Alexander Hamilton, and that is a book with a main character that you think everyone needs to know about. And for me, that has got to be The Martian by Andy Weir. Mark Watney is one of my favourite characters of all time. I love Mark Watney. You will find me constantly talking about Mark Watney whenever he is brought up, whenever The Martian is brought up, whenever someone asks me about my favourite book. I don't even know how this is my favourite book of all time, but it is. It doesn't necessarily make sense, but I will just keep coming back to this book. I've annotated this book and everything. I am getting a special edition, the Broken Maiden special edition of this book. It arrives tomorrow as I'm filming this, and I am so excited. You will see me unboxing it in my vlog and I will be crying. I can tell you that right now. But Mark Watney is one of the best characters that has ever been written. He is one of my favourite main characters, and yes, I will shout about him from the rooftops because he is a main character worth knowing about. If you know, you know. Like, Mark Watney is just the GOAT. I love him so much. Next is Aaron Burr, Sir, and that is a book with an epic friend group. This is the song where all the guys are kind of introduced. And for that I've chosen The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. I just decided that I needed to get this into the tag somewhere because, again, like The Martian, this is one of my favourite books. I seem to have like a niche sci-fi kind of book thing that I like, and this is one of them. This is about a group on the Wayfarer, which is a ship, and this ship is tasked with going the long way around to get to this planet to then punch a hole through space to create a wormhole. That's what the ship does. It punches holes and creates wormholes to create faster lanes through space. And you literally just, this book, nothing happens. Nothing happens in this book. You literally just spend time with the crew. And I love the crew with all of my heart. Like, seriously, I love the crew with all of my heart. I love all of them. I love their friendships. I love their connections. I love the way that they interact with each other. And you're introduced to the crew by way of Rosemary, who is new on the crew, and she doesn't know any of the crew. But the crew have all been together for years at various different, times. And so they'll have these different connections, and she is kind of inserted into this scenario and gets to know them, and you get to know them through her. And I just, honestly, they care about each other so much. They're kind of more, that's definitely a found family situation. And yeah, to me, they're just one of the most amazing friend groups, found family, and I love them so much. The next song is My Shot, and that is a book that features an overly ambitious character. And for that, I've chosen The Magicians by Lev Grossman. This is about Quentin Coldwater, who thinks he is the cream of the crop. He thinks he's better than everybody he goes to school with. And then he gets into a magic school where everybody is better than the people they went to school with. And he is put into a very large pond where he is a very small fish. So really, it's not even just Quentin. All of the characters in here are overly ambitious and very, very full of themselves. Like, Hamilton would fit in well at this school in more ways than one. And yeah, I love these characters, but oh my god, are they all assholes. Like, that is basically the premise of this book. Like, it's a magic school with like Narnia. It's Narnia, but like magic school, but like they're all assholes, but I love them dearly. Next is The Story of Tonight, and that is a book where someone gives a speech before a battle or fight, or a book where someone gives a kind of like pre-game speech or hype-up speech. Basically, I wanted this to be quite a big, broad prompt. So this can be anything from like someone giving themselves a sort of hype-up speech, like, come on, you've got this, you can do this, like, whether it be like just to themselves, mumbling to themselves, look at themselves in the mirror like, come on, you've got this, you can do this, giving a friend a hype-up speech, all the way through, like anything from that, all the way through to like King Theoden on his horse at the battle, screaming, death! Death! Like, sorry, I've got Theoden on my brain because the actor died recently. But yeah, like anything from one end of the spectrum to that end of the spectrum counts for this prompt. For this, I've chosen Rhapsodic by Laura Thalassa. For this, I am channeling Tempest. Tempest is the best friend of the main character, and she is the kind of best friend that when you are feeling low, she will be your hype girl. She will tell you you are the baddest bitch, and she will tell you to turn that frown upside down, put on the conical hat, put on some slutty heels, and make sure you make him pay. Doesn't matter what he's done, you're going to make him pay. I just love Tempest. Like, she is an absolute queen. She is a goddess. And she makes sure that everybody around her feels like a goddess, unless they do her wrong, in which case you're going down. But if you're her friend, she will make sure she pulls you up with her. And that is the beauty of Tempest. Like, she is a side character, and I think there's a story or books somewhere where she's the main character. I'm not sure, I have to look into that. But Tempest is that side character, that friend who, like, will pull you out of the gutter like slap your ass and tell you you look great. Like, I love her. Like, I wish she was my best friend. Like, I would love to be friends with this character. And there are so many times through this where Callie just feels totally worthless. She just feels so low. Part of using, like, Callie using her powers is that she gets like a dip afterwards, and Tempest is there to be like, you're a bad bitch. Like, lift yourself up, dust yourself off, have some chocolate, grab a glass of wine, you're good. And yeah, she just, that is the kind of friend that we all need. Next up is the Schyler Sisters. And for that, I want you to show me a book that features a great sibling relationship. Because we all know Peggy, Angelica, Eliza, there's nothing breaking those sisters apart. Not even a man. Not even a man will come in between those sisters. And for that, I think Becca's going to be happy with this one because I've chosen Lady Midnight. This is the first in the Dark Artifices trilogy, and this predominantly features the Blackthorn children. So they're not all children, some of them are like older teenagers, all the way through to like a baby. I don't know if, are they still a baby? Anyway, this like entire family, the Blackthorn family, kind of features most alongside Emma in this book, in this trilogy. And the Blackthorns are one of those families where like the siblings will absolutely go war for each other. Like, they will wind each other up and they will fight like cats and dogs. But you even look at one of them funny, the rest of them are coming for you. Like, they will do anything for each other. And especially like Julian. Julian will do absolutely anything. He is absolutely killing himself in this series for his siblings. And Julian deserves the world for what he does for his siblings. And we all know this is my least favourite in the Shadowhunter world. But even I can't say that Julian does not deserve the world for the way he treats his siblings. Like, he is the big brother. Like, hands down. The siblings in this, their relationship, there's nothing that rivals it. And like, I've looked at all of my books, and the one family, the one set of siblings that I keep coming back to is the Blackthorns. And I really, like, I just can't argue with it. Like, the Blackthorn siblings, they are where it's at. The next one is highly specific to a character. In this prompt, I had one character in mind while making the prompt. And that is the song Farmer Refuted. And that is a character that you hate / wish would just shut up / makes you want to roll your eyes so hard they get lost in the back of your head. And I'm not going to spoil the character. This is one where I'm not going to say who the character is, because it's a little bit of a spoiler. It's a little bit of a spoiler, but if you've read the book, you know exactly who I'm talking about. You know exactly who I'm talking about. Me and my friend literally will send TikToks and memes back and forward to each other, just slagging off this one character. It's a character from this book. There's one character. It's not even the villain. There's just one character in this who we hate with a passion, and it's like, seriously, I just want to like push him off the parapet. But yeah, like, every time he talks, it's like, shut up. Just shut up. He just... There's so many, like, if you see Fourth Wing TikToks, it's either the enemies to lovers, like, it's either people simping over the enemies to lovers thing, simping over another couple of the characters, who are just like, two of the boys that are just like comedy gold that I love, simping over the dragons, who are hilarious, or slagging off this character that I'm talking about. There is no, that is it. That's all you see about Fourth Wing, or people saying that they don't like it. But like, that's what you see in this one character. There's a special place in hell in my head for this character. And like, right off a cliff. On sight. And it's not even the bad guy. But yeah, I wrote this prompt with this one particular character in mind. The minute, every time, so Farmer Refuted, This song is like, so there's this guy who is like up on a soapbox, literally, and he's like, heed not the rabble, the scream revolution, they have not your interests at heart. And then Hercules Mulligan says to Hamilton, oh my god, dude, tear this guy apart. Like, he wants him to go and like speak over him, and that's what happens. Like, Hamilton and him and this guy like are speaking over each other, and like at one point Hamilton says to him, it's like, if you say that again, I'm going to scream. And that's how I feel about this character. Like, every time I hear that song or see it performed, I think of this one character, and yeah, so that's why I had to do this. That is one of the things that spurred this entire like tag, was this one character. So you're welcome. Next up is You'll Be Back, and that is a book with a character that is manipulative or abusive, or a book with a hilarious villain. I did try and give you like a couple of options for some of the tag questions, just because I know some people have some people won't read books that have like manipulative abusive characters, because it can be quite triggering. So manipulative or abusive characters, or a hilarious villain, because King George in this, hilarious, but also, you know, let's face it. And for this, I have chosen the book My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. This is a incredible book. I love this book. Like, it's set in the 90s. I don't remember when it's set. It goes between like 2000 and 2017, that's it. So it goes between 2000 and 2017, and it is about our main character, whose name is not Vanessa, or her name is Vanessa. I totally flubbed that. It goes between 2000 and 2017, and it's about our main character Vanessa, who was abused by her teacher Jacob when she was at school. I think she was 14 when it happened. It's been a little while since I've read this book, and at the time she saw this as a relationship, and she was in love with this teacher. Now, she was obviously 14 and he was an adult. We all know, like, sensible people understand that that was an abusive relationship. That wasn't even an abusive relationship. Relationships should not come into that. That was an abuse of that teacher-student relationship. That was... there's no other way to say it. It was abuse. It was... I can't even... there's another word that's just not popping into my head. But in the current timeline, the 2017 timeline, another pupil who is younger than Vanessa, so she is more recent, a victim, that's what it is. She is a more recent victim, and she has come forward, and he has now been investigated for this. But Vanessa believes that she's the only person who's had a relationship with him, and doesn't believe this girl when she's saying what she's saying. She doesn't believe that he would do something like this, despite the fact that she was obviously abused by him when she was a child. To her, it was a relationship. To her, they were in love. And she still has contact with him, but they don't have a relationship because she's too old for him now. And she blames herself for that, for being too old for him and not being attractive enough. And it's so messed up. This book is so messed up. But it's so real, and it's so well researched, and it's so realistic to an aspect of this, like, how this works. Like, I'm sure this is very realistic to someone's experience, or a collection of people's experience. It's obviously not realistic to everybody's experience because, you know, people vary, etc. But this is very, very raw and very, very harsh and very, very brutal towards this experience that Vanessa has had. And this is, you go between the two, her as a 14-year-old and her as an adult, and you see her as a 14-year-old and how the abuse happened, and it doesn't hold back. So if you're going to read this, know that it doesn't hold back. And you see her in the current timeline come to terms and sort of twig into the fact that actually this isn't normal, this wasn't normal, and trying to wrap her head around the fact that, wait, something happened to me that was out with my control, and that triggering that trauma, because traumatic things that happen to us aren't necessarily traumatic if we don't know they're bad. I don't know how that's... like, if you... until you realise, like, it sounds really weird, but like at the time, and I know what she means. It's hard to explain it, but like at the time she didn't think it was a bad thing that's happening. She was happy, she was content with him, and it was only in the reflection of it that she realised how awful it was. And that's what made her, in the present timeline, that's what brought it all back, and that's what like triggered her, like that's what then sets her off, is that like processing of what happened. At the time she's just flattered and you know, like I said, in love with this teacher. So it's that whole thing, but then looking back, realising that actually how wrong it was is so fascinating and so well written, and so like, it's horrific, don't get me wrong, absolutely horrific, but it's something that needs to be talked about. And it's so weird to say that you love this book, like love books like this, but I don't know, we need to be given medium to talk about these horrific things that happen, because otherwise, if we don't bring them into the light, they keep happening. If we keep them hidden, they keep happening. It's only if we drag them out into the light and expose them that we can stop them, and that is what Kate Elizabeth Russell has done with this book. She's dragging this out into the light and doing it in a really, really brutal way, and I think she's done such a great job with this to do it the way that she's done it. So yeah, that's my little soapbox on this book, but I think this is one of the best books I've ever read in my life, and I'm going to have to reread this now. I've made myself want to read it again. It is, like I said, it's absolutely brutal, but there's something about brutal books that I just love reading. Maybe I should restart therapy. Next up is Right Hand Man, and that is a book with your favourite sidekick and or companion. And for that, I've chosen Bookshops and Bone Dust, and it's this beautiful Waterstones edition. And I'm not gonna tell you too much about the character, but all I'm gonna say is Satchel. If you've read it, you know. If you haven't, you should. All I'm gonna say is Satchel. That's it. That's all I'm gonna say. Is Satchel. It's so pretty on the side. But yeah, this is a prequel to Legends and Lattes. It kind of almost sandwiches it. There's like a bit in the end that goes to the end of Legends and Lattes. So it is a prequel, but it does like sandwich it a little bit. And this is when Viv is injured and ends up having to stay in a seaside town. And she ends up kind of helping out at this bookshop while she's healing. But there's also like something else going on in the background, which is pertinent to Legends and Lattes as well. It's a little bit more on the vanity side than the cozy side. I still really, really enjoyed it. It was like a 4.5 stars, whereas Legends and Lattes was like a straight up like rocketing 5 stars. But Satchel, man, Satchel. Next up is A Winter's Ball, and for that I've asked you who's your favourite book boyfriend, or your favourite male main character, or a male main character who's a womaniser before the novel takes place. Now, a book boyfriend, someone has asked me about that when I asked them to check over my prompts to see if they made sense. And like, book boyfriend, for me, a book boyfriend is just that male character. Doesn't even need to be a main character, but that male character, specifically male character, who is like your favourite character that you will hear nothing bad about, that is like, if someone, like, you love that character, and if someone says something mean about them, you're like, that is my child, or that is my man, or that is my, like, person you were talking about, and I will end you. Like, you know, that kind of like, you know how you just have those characters that you're like, that is my character, but like a male version of that character. Yeah, I just the song, that is just what it evoked in me, is like that whole, like, I don't know, it's just the first thing that popped into my head. Or like your favourite male main character, your favourite male character, anything like that, feel free to like abuse and stretch the prompts. Or a male main character that was like, if you're a romance reader or romanticer, something like that, somebody who was like a womaniser and then got like pulled into check when they met the character, the female main character, whatever, their a significant other, etc. during the book. You know what I mean? I hope that makes sense. For this, I immediately had to be Theo Silva from from Reckless. Again, I wrote this prompt around this character because Theo Silva. I've been seeing so many people discovering Chestnut Springs, the Chestnut Springs series, this is book 4, through TikTok and reading it and loving it. And there was, everybody's been on like Cade, like everybody's been like Daddy Cade, and I'm like, yes, I see it. I know why. I understand. Like, and not Daddy Cade, like, not that kind of Daddy Cade, but yes, that kind of Daddy Cade, but it's a single dad romance, so he is actually a dad. Like, and there's a whole joke about him, like, she calls him Daddy Eaton, and he's like, that's what we call my dad, please don't call me that. And she's like, okay, I'll call you Daddy Cade then. And he's like, I also don't like that. And she's like, well, Daddy Cade it is. Like, to wind him up, there's a whole thing about Daddy Cade. Anyway, so not a Daddy Cade like that, like, actually has a child, Daddy Cade. But still, like, but there was one TikTok I saw that triggered this, like, response, and Theo Silva, man. Theo Silva. I love, this is my favourite book in the series. Like, I thoroughly underestimated Theo Silva throughout the entire series, and then this book hit different. There's, like, a bit where they're sitting around the table, and someone says something, and he just goes, he absolutely snaps, and I'm just like, okay, okay, Theo, go off. Like, oh my god, I love Theo so much. He is one of my favourite characters of all time. Like, I would go war for that man. Like, I love, like, this is the kind of guy that men need to be, like, aiming for. Like, this is the standard we need to be aiming for. He is just, I cannot, like, it would spoil so much of the book, but I could go on about Theo. Like, I started telling Kay about the thing that I saw on TikTok, and she managed to rattle off the whole story to me because I'd gone on about it so many times, and I was like, oh, yeah, that. But then I told her about the quote because I hadn't told her about the quote part that I was then telling her about, but she knew the whole story of the book. She just didn't know that one specific, like the general story of the book. She just didn't know that one part. But like, Theo Silva. Theo motherfucking Silva, man. But he was also kind of a womaniser before, because Buckle Bunnies. You know? Because he's a bull rider in Buckle Bunnies. Next is Helpless, and that is a book with insta-love, or alternatively a book with a cover that is so beautiful that it was just love at first sight. For that, you will probably argue with me that there are more beautiful covers in my library, never mind in the world, but I had to go with Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor, simply because I have been trying to get my hands on this specific cover for years. They did one limited run of the hardcovers, and since then I've not been able to get a hold of these hardcovers. Like, I've got the paperbacks, but they are ugly as sin. And there's something this cover does to my brain. It's so simple, but there's something this cover does to my brain. Like, I will never be able to repay Lisa for getting me these covers. I don't know. I really don't know what it is, but there's something this cover does to my brain, and I'm just so in love with it. If I had my new copy of The Martian, it would probably be that, but there's just something this does to my brain. There's something special about this that happens in my brain that I saw this and I was just like, yes. So it had to be this. It couldn't have been any other cover. It had to be this. Next is Satisfied, and that's a book where you wish the side character got a better story or ending. For that, I've actually chosen Her Feast Creatures by Maria Lewis. This had one character and I actually messaged Maria and I was like, why? Why? Why did you have to do that? And she just laughed at me. She kind of just laughed. And she was like, sorry. Why? There was one character and I was like, You had every power to just not do that. To not do what you did, make a different choice, and it would all have been fine. And she did what she did. And she broke my heart. And it is not technically, like, it's someone who's in this book here, this green one, but this is not part of the main series. This is a shoot off, so it's a side character to the rest of the series. And oh my god, why? I so wish they'd gotten a better ending. They'd gotten a better story. Because they deserved so much more. After everything they went through, they deserved so much more than what happened in the end. And I get it, like, there has to be tragedy. There has to be... I feel like it was a trade-off if that didn't happen, and I feel like something else would have happened, and I genuinely can't decide which one would have been worse. Like, I cannot decide what would have been worse. Both would have broken me. Like, so, yeah, but I kind of just wish she would have gone with the happily ever after, and everybody gets to, like, have a happily ever after, but no, she's cruel. And she broke me, so thanks, Maria. Next is Wait For It, which is my favourite song in the entire musical, and for that, I want to tell me about a character who has much more to them than meets the eye. So for this, I did have a character in mind, and that is Russ from Wildfire. Russ, you are first introduced to in Icebreaker, and he is kind of really quiet. Like, even amongst the team that you do meet in Icebreaker, he's kind of on the fringe. He is really quiet. You kind of see him pop in and out at really strategic, really strange moments. And it just gives you that, like, the main character, the female main character for Icebreaker kind of wants to know what's going on with him. You kind of want to know what's going on with him. But the author gives you nothing. And it just builds up this intrigue. It's almost like you kind of want to focus more on him than what's going on in the book. And it's funny because so many people preferred Wildfire than Icebreaker. And maybe it's because Wildfire is her second book and Icebreaker was her first book, so she got better at writing, blah, 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 blah. But part of it, I think, is because of Russ. Like, you have this character who is so reserved and so, like, mysterious and so just, like, it has this air of, like I say, mysteriousness about him. And yet, in this book, you realise there's so much more to him. Like, you know, I feel like you kind of get that going into Icebreaker, like reading Icebreaker, you kind of get this idea that there's just so much more to him than meets the eye, and that he's the underdog, and that people, like, have this idea of him, but there's more to him. And in Wildfire, we get to see that because we see from his point of view, and we get to see just how much he's hiding, how much there is inside of him, how fantastic and, like, broad of a person he is. And he is just one of my favourite characters because he is that, just, he has so much life experience despite the fact that he's quite young, like he's in his early 20s, and yet he is just this kind, compassionate and really, really just loving, caring person. And I do love Russ. He is one of my, like I say, favourite characters, and I just think he really is, he's that kind of guy where he just seems like a dumb jock, but he's actually he's very, very deep, and I don't know, I just want to cuddle him. Next is Stay Alive, and for that I have given you, like, again, a couple of options. So the first one is a dead character that you want to revive. You don't need to name the character. If it's a spoiler, you can just name the book. If you want to name the character, like, feel free, but maybe use spoiler tags. But, like, if you just want to name the book, name the book. Or a book that you just really want to revive the hype for. You think that the hype has died down and you think it should be, you know, kick it off again. For the first part in this, I have done one for both because I am reusing a book for this. And I'm not going to say the character again because spoilers. But again, if you've read it, you know. If you know, you know. And for the first part, dead character that you want to revive, we're going with Fourth Wing again. If you know, you know, and that's all I'm going to say on that. And for a book that I want to revive the hype for, I'm going to say Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds. I feel like this had a little bit of hype on BookTube that I saw, and it kind of, almost peaked and dipped really, really quickly that I saw and just disappeared. But I think this is one of the best things I've ever read in my life. It really, really impacted me to this day. Like, I've not read it since, I don't even know when. I think like maybe 2018. And I still think about this. This book just, it really, really hit me. And it's written in verse. It's not even like, it's not hard to read. It's not a lot. There's illustrations in this edition. It's not a lot to read. And it's so, so impactful. I really, really think everybody should be reading this. They should be putting this in schools. This should be required reading for everybody. It is so, so impactful and so wonderfully written. It's just absolutely just impossibly incredible. I can't say enough incredible things about this. And if you've not read it, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? I just really want more people to talk about this, and I want more hype for this, because it is, again, one of the best things I've ever read, period. Next is The 10 Dual Commandments, and that is a book where the characters deal with an issue in a stupid and immature way. And again, this can be like as broad spectrum as you want. If you find the way someone's dealt with something to be immature in a book, go for it. There was a few in this area that I could probably have pulled out, but honestly, my mind went just blank. So what I've decided to do is wedge a book that I wanted to talk about into this video, and that is The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. And looking at you, Capital, looking at you. If your way of deciding to not have a war again is to put children into an arena to fight to the death and televise it, I'm gonna call you stupid and immature. If your idea of solving a problem is to put children or put people of any sort into a confined space that you have full control over, and then wipe them out completely, or until there's one left standing, I think that's stupid and immature, to say the least. I have absolutely no respect for you. And, yeah, because, I mean, I base this off of the fact that I find the dueling aspect of Hamilton so dumb. Like, every time a duel happens, like Hamilton gets into a duel, I'm like, you're an idiot. Like, I want to just like bop him over the head with something. Like, get a book and just like, it's not how you solve a problem. You don't solve a problem through murder or slaughter or killing. That's not how you solve a problem. That's not how you do it. And if you think I'm also using this as an allegory for something that's happening at the time, like currently in the world, you know, also stupid and immature, and zero respect for said people doing said thing. You know, just saying. But yeah, I've been thinking about the Hunger Games lately and just wanted to find a way to shoehorn it into this tag. Next is Meet Me Inside, and that is a book where a character really oversteps, or a book where a character gets a dressing down or telling off. And for this, I kind of combined the two options. And I'm going to use You Deserve Each Other by Sarah Hogle. There's a bit in this where, you know, those horror stories, I can't say that, I'm too Scottish, horror stories that people have about mother-in-laws, where they kind of overstep the mark. And by overstep, I mean they leap. They're so far over the line, they can't even see the line. The line is a dot to them. And usually, their spouses don't do anything about it. But thankfully, sometimes their spouses are like, excuse me? And they get what for? This is an excellent example of that. So yeah, but it gets both points, and that's a French reference. I got you, Jem. And Smash. I got you. But yeah, so that's what I'm using for this prompt. If you've read it, you know what I mean. And that's one of my favourite scenes in a book, is watching somebody get dressed down like that. Just... And again, like that moment where they overstep, you could hear a pin drop. Like, in my head you could just like the silent and the pin. Again, kind of wanted to use Reckless for this because there, again, that bit that I was talking about with Theo, there's that moment where someone oversteps and he just like, and he goes, oh. But yeah, I thought I'd better use a different book, so deserve each other by Sarah Hubble. Next is That Would Be Enough, and that is a book with a reveal that changes the course of the characters' lives. For this, I've chosen Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo. This is about two girls who, unbeknownst to them, have the same dad. One lives in New York and the other lives in the Dominican Republic. Had to double check that there. And one day a plane goes down, and this is based on a real plane crash that happened. And on that plane was their dad. And because he died, they then find out that he had a family both in New York and in the Dominican Republic. And they are faced with this life-altering knowledge about each other and kind of what they decide to do with this knowledge. Again, this is another one that is told in verse, another very, very easy one to read. This is, again, excellent, so well told by Elizabeth Acevedo in verse. I kind of wish, that's the only thing, I think it's an excellent story, an excellent book, and the poetry, obviously, aspect of it is beautiful, wonderfully written. But if this had been a novel, I also would have eaten this up. Just saying. Next up is Guns and Ships, and we all know there's only one way I could have done this prompt, and that is because Debbie Diggs is the fastest rapper on Broadway. So that is a book that reads really fast. Like a book that just goes by like that. For me, I had to say Percy Jackson and The Lightning Thief. That is the one I picked up as the first one in the series, but the entire 5-book series, and even Heroes of Olympus, they look like junkers. You pick it up, it's read. They just go flying by. Every one of my friends that has read it this past year or so has been putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. And then they pick it up and they're like, oh, look at that, it's read. And they're like, oh my god, I didn't realise this was going to read so fast. I am telling you, if you're putting this off, it will go like that. It's just like you start the book and oh look, it's finished. It's like you download it into your head. It's so quick. It's so addictive. It's just like, honestly, such a fast read. The way Rick writes, it's so fast. It is also middle grade, which makes it that much faster. Next is History Has Its Eyes on You, and that is a book about a major historical event. For this, of course, I had to go for a World War II historical fiction because it's me. And for that, I've chosen The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. Again, because it's me. This is one of my favourite World War II historical fictions. It's this, I'm not even going to get into it because I will cry, but this is about two sisters who live in Nazi-occupied France, and they both get involved with the resistance in different ways. It is a book about World War II, major historical event. Ta-da! Next up is Yorktown, and that is a book where the underdogs pull together and come out the winners against all odds. Again, this is one where you decide who or what makes an underdog and what makes them the winner odds. Like, you decide how you want to fill that prompt. For that, for me, I've gone with Iron Widow. She set out to go do a thing and just die trying, and yet this is a series, so we all know she's, at least in this book, she made it through because there's going to be a next book. I don't know how she's going to make it out of the series, but at least for the book, she really was the underdog. She was a daughter in a Chinese-based fantasy novel, so we all know how they feel about daughters. And she went to go somewhere where she was pretty much guaranteed to die, and yet she's alive. So that feels like pretty good bad odds for her to be the underdog for. And yet, here we are. Next up is What Comes Next? And for that, I want to know what series you're reading where you are dying for the sequel. Where you've read, maybe you've just read book one, maybe you're so many books into the series, but the next one's just not out yet and you're absolutely dying for that sequel. For me, it's The Casket Girls. I've read books 1, 2, 3 and 4. Book 5 was meant to come out last year. It is nowhere on the horizon. I need to know where it is. I would really like it, Alice. No pressure, no pressure. It's fine, I'm fine, we're fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. It's also a French reference. Anyway, yeah. The Casket Girls is a paranormal... I don't want to call it a romance. It's a paranormal, witchy, vampire, mythology-based book set in New Orleans. It's one of the best things I've ever read. I have, the first 4 books. Book 5, and I think that is the final book. It's still not with us. I'm not okay. Especially after how the last book ended. I desperately want this book, and I can see why it's taken its time. But at the same time, I really need this book. And now we're on to the penultimate song, and that is Dear Theodosia. And for that, I want you to tell me a book that's got a good parent-child relationship for once. For me, it's got to be a Heartstopper. And of course, I have to get Heartstopper in here somewhere. It's me, let's face it. For this, of course, we are talking about Nick's mother. She is the absolute GOAT. She takes his coming out so well that even though I've read this so many times, I cannot even count, I still cry. Even though my family couldn't care less about the fact that I was not straight. And I didn't even, nobody even flicked an eyelash at it. I still cry. Literally, I just towed Kay home one day and they were just like, go. Nobody cared. Nobody was bothered or arsed about it. And yet I still cry whenever... So her name's Sarah. I honestly cannot remember her name. That is terrible. She's such an amazing, supportive mother. And every kid deserves that. Every queer kid coming out deserves that. Everybody deserves that level of support from their parent. I know my mum would be that supportive if it came to it. My mum is that kind of supportive parent, and I love to see things like that in literature because it's just so unfortunate that a lot of the books that we see, you can't even count how many of your books start off with the parents are dead, or the parents die, or some kind of thing like that. We just need some good, or the parents are awful. We need some good parents in literature, please. Can we have some parents who are actually there for their kids, please? In books. That would be nice. I don't know if you can hear Hamish snoring. I'm not going to apologise if you can, because it's really cute. But I think I've just woken him up by telling you that he's snoring. He's asleep on the chair over there, and he's so cute. And the last song for this act, before the interval, is Non-Stop. And that is a series you read start to finish, or alternatively, a writer you love who has a huge backlist. For me, I'm going to use a book series that I don't have. I was hoping that they would be delivered by now, but they haven't been. But I'm going to use the Bergman Brothers books. Bergman Brothers books. I always add an A in the middle somewhere for absolutely no reason. The first one is Only When It's Us by Chloe Leese, and I binged that series. There are 7 books. I just finished the last one recently, and over the last 2 months I have binged that series. I love that series so much. You have absolutely no idea. Chloe Leese herself, like I say, that's 7 books, and she does also have 2 other series, so she does have a decent sized backlist anyway. But I tell you, I absolutely flew through that series. Just although I am a binge reader when it comes to series, but just I had to again wedge that series into this somewhere. So here I am talking about it. This follows a family of 7 siblings. Each book is about one of the different siblings, and I think I've talked about it on my channel enough for you to know what it's about. I will be doing more in-depth videos about this series, a vlog about this series, because I love it so much. It's so disability heavy. It is so mental health heavy, physical disability health heavy. It is just one of the most wonderful things I've ever read, and I am just so excited to get into it and get tabbing and highlighting when I get my paperbacks. But yeah, I absolutely read that start to finish non-stop. So that is my tag, that is Act 1 of my Hamilton tag. I will be posting Act 2 fairly soon as well. So I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know if you want to do the tag, tag me in it so I can watch your videos. And yeah, leave me a gold star down in the comments if you enjoyed this. I'm not going to tag anybody simply because I don't like putting pressure on people to do tags, especially when they're this long. And I am already feeling a bit like nervous about it in the first place, so I don't want to like feel like I'm making people do it if they don't want to do it. So if you want to do it, please do it. And I will see you for Act 2. Enjoy your interval, go get a snack, go get a drink, and I will see you later. Goodbye.